So the first CVP, part of the CVP analysis, we did the basic CVP, and that in and of itself can be very powerful, even though it's a fairly simple tool. In this one, we're going to get a little bit deeper in the weeds in how to use CVP analysis um, in our business as more than just how much do we have to sell to break even, how much do we have to sell for this or that. So let's go back to our original problem where we had a selling price of 12, variable costs of 7, which gave us a contribution margin of 5. And at this point in time, um, let's suppose that we were selling 9,000. 9,000 was our break even. Let's say we were selling 12,000 units. So we were making a little bit of a profit there, 3,000 units worth, or 15,000 before tax, right? And our marketing people say, if we come up with $5,000 for an advertising campaign on the radio, then we can increase our sales, we believe, by 10%. So let's take a look and see if that's viable or not. So 10% would be 1,200 units. All right. So we take our $5,000 investment in the advertising campaign, divide it by the $5 contribution margin, and we would have to sell 1,000 units in order for 1,000 additional units in order for this to pay for itself. Well, they think we can sell 10% more or 1,200 units, so we would be 200 units better off, or basically $1,000 better off. 200 times 5, $1,000 more profit if we invest $5,000 in the advertising campaign. So anything more than 1,000 units would work for that, right? If we say we're looking for a 10% increase of $12,000 or 12,000 units, how much would we be willing to pay? Well, we multiply that times the contribution margin, and we would be willing to pay, 1,200, I got one too many zeros there. We would be willing to pay anything up to $6,000 for that advertising campaign. If we're convinced that we can sell 10% more through the advertising campaign, then we would be willing to pay up to $6,000 more. All right, we don't want to lose money by doing this. So that's a little bit of how you can look at your marketing costs and that sort of thing. Let's suppose that we decide we might cut our price by $2, and we believe we'll sell 25% more by doing that. Okay, so we'll take our new contribution margin is 10 minus 7 is 3. Our fixed cost or our fixed cost stay the same, and let's see, it was $45,000. And if we divide by that, we get 13,000. Okay, so before we needed 9,000 times 25%, so 1.25, right? All of the ones we are currently selling plus 25% more. would be 11,250. Well, we need 13,000 to break even, right? And so this is not a good deal for us to cut our price by the $2 there, right? Um, so that's just another way you can use this thing. Now, um, when you have a large store like maybe a Lowe's or a Home Depot or a Dillard's or something like that, you have lots and lots of different products, and they're all going to have different contribution margins. So there you can use that contribution margin ratio in total because on average, it may be seasonal, but in the summer you're going to sell these types of goods, and the average contribution margin will be something. And in the winter, you're going to sell these types of goods, and the average contribution margin is going to be something. So you're going to end up with a contribution margin ratio that. So you can use the sales dollars there in whole where you've got a company. But what about a company that has maybe 3 products? So let's say that we've got a company with a basic model, and the contribution margin on that equals $3. We've got a deluxe model, and the contribution margin on that equals let's say $5. And then we've got maybe a commercial model, and the contribution margin on that, let's say, is $12. Okay, and our fixed costs are, let's say that our fixed costs are going to be on this problem $60,000. All right. Now, over the years, you've booked your sales, and you know that on average, you will sell 4 of these and 3 of these for every 1 of these that you sell, right? So now what you can do is take a weighted average. And so you'll take the 3, if you add this all up, there's 8. So by 4/8 or half would equal $1.50. And this one is 3/8. So, oops, that would be $1.87.5 each. And this 12 is going to be 1/8. And so that's going to be $1.50. And so you add these all up, and your average contribution margin is $4.87.5 a piece. And so you know that you need to make sales of 307.69, so around that to 308. You need to make 12,308 unit sales, keeping your basic average. Now, where this can go bad is if you put a sale, let's say on the deluxe, right? And so now you're not only is your contribution margin out of whack, you cut this down, and your contribution margin is, say, $4 instead of 5. So your contribution margin is out of whack, but also your sales ratios might become out of whack on that. So you have to be a little bit careful with that. But this is one way to do that where you take a weighted average of your contribution margin ratio and do it that way. Personally, I prefer using the contribution margin ratio in total and getting the dollar sales, because it's easy to get the dollar sales. You can be a manager and out of town, um, and the call up your assistant manager and say, what were the sales today, and the assistant manager should be able to look at that immediately and give it to you, and so you know whether you're hitting your target or not on something like that. Now, let me warn you about one more thing. Most of this cost, volume, profit, cost accounting, managerial accounting was all developed in the for the manufacturing sector. Um, so that being said, it has been adapted for the service sector and for the retail sector, but there's a couple of modifications. One of them is in the retail sector, we tend to generally think of our sales associates, those people, as a fixed cost as opposed to a variable cost. Yes, I know if sales are slow, you'll send a few home. If sales are brisk, you may call a few people in, that sort of thing. But in general, if we're open from 10 in the morning till 6 at night, but we don't sell that much at 10 in the morning, a few here and there, lots of times they're cleaning shelves and restacking what people went through and all that kind of stuff. But we still have to have the sales staff there just in case somebody walks in. So we tend to treat them more as a fixed cost instead of a variable cost. All right, so let you think about that. And this concludes cost, volume, profit.